The philosophy espoused by Jim Rohn in Seven Strategies for Wealth and Happiness is fundamentally a blueprint for a life lived deliberately, a profound understanding that success is not an accident, but a direct result of applying specific, consistent disciplines to life's major areas. Rohn taught that wealth and happiness are inseparable, two sides of the same coin, and that true prosperity is a holistic achievement. Financial security combined with a rich inner life, strong relationships, and vibrant health. The book serves as a foundational text in personal development, moving beyond mere motivational platitudes to offer a systematic, step-by-step approach to self-mastery. The entire framework rests upon the principle that we must improve ourselves before we can improve our circumstances, recognizing that the key to a better life lies not in wishing for things to be easier, but in wishing that we were better. This journey of transformation begins with the most fundamental act of creation, defining what success looks like, which is the essence of the first, indispensable strategy. If this is your first time, subscribe so you don't miss out. Let's continue. The first, monumental strategy, upon which all subsequent success is built, is to unleash the power of goals. Rohn meticulously details that the setting of goals is not a trivial exercise in listing wishes, but rather a profound philosophical act of shaping one's own destiny. It is the necessary prerequisite for turning vague aspirations into concrete achievements. The lesson here is that a lack of clearly defined, compelling goals is the most common and silent epidemic of mediocrity, because without a target, all efforts are dissipated by the winds of distraction. Rohn often challenged his audience to consider the four major categories of goals: those for your finances, those for your health and well-being, those for your relationships, and those for your personal knowledge and development. This multifaceted approach ensures that the pursuit of wealth does not inadvertently sacrifice happiness. The systematic link to the next strategy is embedded in the purpose of the goal itself. A goal should be so compelling that it forces you to become a better person to achieve it. It is the who you become that is more important than what you get. For example, an American entrepreneur setting a goal to launch a sustainable tech company with a $100 million valuation in 5 years is not just seeking money. They are challenging themselves to acquire mastery in leadership, finance, technology, and market strategy. This specific, high-stakes objective immediately illuminates the gaps in their current skills and knowledge, creating an urgent, intrinsic demand for new learning. On a global scale, consider the development goals set by nations. The United Arab Emirates Vision 2030 is a macroscopic goal, aiming to transition the nation from an oil-dependent economy to a global knowledge-based hub. This singular, powerful vision immediately mandates a massive, national investment in education, research, and infrastructure. A collective acknowledgement that the goal necessitates the acquisition of new knowledge on an unprecedented scale to be realized. The necessity identified by the ambitious goal seamlessly introduces the second core strategy: seek knowledge. Once the what, the goal, is established, the inevitable next step is discovering the how. The lesson derived from this strategy is simple yet absolute. Formal education will get you a living, but self-education will get you a fortune. This fortune is not just financial, but intellectual and experiential. Rohn was a fervent proponent of creating a personal library of ideas, consuming books, attending seminars, and consciously seeking out conversations with mentors. This is where the systematic nature of the strategies truly shines. The goal provides the motive for the knowledge search, and the knowledge provides the means to execute the goal. The modern resonance of this is undeniable. In the United States, the rise of specialized knowledge platforms, from Coursera and edX to niche industry podcasts and newsletters, reflects a cultural recognition that success in the 21st century requires a commitment to lifelong learning that is faster and more adaptive than traditional schooling. A software developer, for instance, must constantly seek knowledge about new programming languages, security protocols, and machine learning models, not because their company mandates it, but because their personal goal of becoming a senior architect or launching their own product demands it. Globally, the impact of accessible knowledge has been revolutionary. Consider the rise of mobile-first economies across Africa and Asia. An aspiring small business owner in a remote village, using a smartphone, can access global market trends, free business courses, and operational best practices that were entirely inaccessible 2 decades ago. The lesson here transcends mere information consumption. It is about the deliberate transformation of information into applied wisdom. It is not enough to read a book on leadership. One must internalize the principles and act upon them. And it is this very transition, from passive knowledge acquisition to active application, that necessitates the next strategic step. Simply knowing what to do is insufficient. The knowledge must be paired with the willingness and capacity to change one's entrenched habits and approaches. The acquired knowledge forces a confrontation with current limitations, creating the imperative for personal evolution. This inescapable confrontation with one's current self leads us directly into the third strategy: learn how to change. This is arguably the most difficult step because it involves mastering oneself. The central lesson Rohn imparts here is that success is simply a few consistent disciplines practiced every day, while failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day. The process of change is not about radical, overwhelming overhauls, but about the accumulation of small, positive disciplines. Rohn encourages a focus on what he calls minor errors in judgment. These are the seemingly small, inconsequential choices, the decision to hit the snooze button, to skip one day of exercise, to spend a small amount of money unnecessarily, or to put off a crucial conversation. Individually, these are harmless, but when repeated over a decade, they accumulate into a catastrophic outcome that is disproportionate to the smallness of the original errors. To illustrate this systemic accumulation, let's consider a contemporary American example: the battle against digital distraction. A person whose goal, strategy 1, requires deep, focused work, like writing a book or developing a complex algorithm, will seek knowledge, strategy 2, on time management and productivity. They will inevitably learn about the harmful effects of constant phone notifications. The challenge then becomes implementing the change, strategy 3, silencing the phone for 90-minute blocks. This is a small, daily discipline, but the discipline of the moment is what dictates long-term success. If they fail to change this habit, their progress stalls. On a global scale, consider the shift towards sustainable practices. The knowledge of climate change is widespread, but the change requires billions of individual, small disciplines: reducing meat consumption, choosing reusable bags, consciously conserving water. The global example of Iceland's decade-long efforts to successfully reverse environmental damage through consistent, small policy changes and personal disciplines, from geothermal energy reliance to reforestation efforts, is a testament to Rohn's principle. True, lasting change is a gradual, deliberate evolution of habits, not a single, dramatic revolution. This practice of mastering small, daily disciplines is not just about productivity. It is the fundamental mechanism for controlling one's resources, particularly the most quantifiable one, money, thereby systematically leading to the next strategy. The capacity for discipline honed in strategy 3 is directly applied to the fourth, and perhaps most immediately practical, strategy: manage your finances. Rohn's lesson here is more than just balancing a checkbook. It's a moral and ethical treatise on stewardship. The income must always be the subject of your attention, and you must adopt the philosophy of the fraction. He popularized the simple yet profound 10/10/80 rule, a systematic discipline where every dollar earned is immediately allocated. 10% to savings, the seed money, 10% to charity/contribution, the giving account, and 80% to living expenses. The systematic link is clear. The ability to make money is dependent on one's knowledge and goals, but the ability to keep money is dependent entirely on one's discipline, the prior strategy. The deep lesson is that wealth is not measured by how much you make, but by how much you keep and how hard it works for you. This is why the first 10% for savings is essential. It creates the financial engine that will eventually fuel financial independence. The contemporary American example of the FIRE, financial independence, retire early, movement is a perfect embodiment of this Rohnian principle. These individuals are not necessarily high-income earners. They are extreme practitioners of the October 10th, 80 rule, often pushing the saving component much higher, 50 to 70%, to dramatically reduce their 80 component. They are applying discipline to their finances, viewing every spending choice as an error in judgment if it deviates from their ultimate goal, early retirement. Globally, this principle is being mirrored in the explosion of access to decentralized financial tools. A micro-entrepreneur in Southeast Asia, who previously had no access to formal banking, can now use a mobile finance app to diligently set aside that 10% savings, allowing that money to begin earning interest or be invested in local microlending schemes. This systematic stewardship of resources ensures that one is not merely an earner, but an owner. Once one masters the management of their financial resources, the natural progression is to turn this focused discipline toward their most irreplaceable resource, time. The scarcity and non-renewable nature of time makes it the focus of the fifth strategy: master your time. The central lesson Rohn provides is that time must be treated with the same meticulous discipline as money, because time is our most perishable asset. We cannot save it, only spend it, and thus, the quality of our future is determined by the quality of our present expenditures of time. This strategy builds systematically from the previous one. If financial discipline, strategy 4, is about allocating the flow of money, time discipline is about allocating the flow of attention and effort. Rohn advocates for understanding the 80-20 rule, Pareto principle: 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. The discipline of time mastery is, therefore, the constant, ruthless evaluation of activities to identify and prioritize that critical 20%. Consider the modern American professional struggling with inbox anxiety. Their goal is peak performance, strategy 1. They have the knowledge of effective communication, strategy 2, and they have the discipline to be punctual, strategy 3, but they spend 80% of their day responding to low-value emails. Rohn's principle demands they master their time by applying the 80-20 rule. Identify the 20% of communication that generates 80% of their business value and delegate or delete the rest. The change in habit is required. Globally, this plays out powerfully in the distributed workforce. An engineering team spanning San Francisco, London, and Bangalore must master time zone management, asynchronous communication, and focused work blocks. Their success relies on the discipline of respecting focused time, recognizing that a poorly scheduled meeting wastes not one person's time, but the aggregated time of the entire global team. The systematic bridge to the next strategy is found in the realization that while we must master our time, a significant portion of our time is spent with other people. The quality of those interactions, and the energy they either give or take, is the next critical factor in the equation for wealth and happiness. The inevitable consequence of spending time is the people we spend it with, which frames the sixth vital strategy: surround yourself with winners. Rohn's compelling lesson here is that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Their income, their beliefs, their attitudes, and their habits will inevitably become your own. This is not just a suggestion. It is a fundamental law of influence. The link from the prior strategy is that mastering your time, strategy 5, is intrinsically linked to mastering your associations, because how you spend your time is largely determined by who you spend it with. If your inner circle lacks goals, strategy 1, shuns knowledge, strategy 2, and practices poor disciplines, strategies 3, 4, and 5, your personal trajectory will be dragged down by the powerful, cumulative gravity of their mediocrity. Rohn taught that one must be intentional about 4 types of associations: the disassociate, those whose influence must be limited or eliminated; the associate, those you must work with but whose influence is neutral; the mentor, those you actively seek guidance from; and the peer, those who challenge and inspire you. In the contemporary American context, this is evident in professional networking groups or curated mastermind alliances, where successful individuals pay thousands of dollars simply for the privilege of consciously surrounding themselves with ambitious peers and experienced mentors. This investment is seen not as an expense, but as a deliberate arbitrage of influence. Globally, this principle is reflected in the power of digital communities. Aspiring creators in developing nations, unable to physically connect with established professionals, actively seek out and participate in global online forums, Discord channels, and virtual mentoring platforms to elevate their average 5. The lesson is that the human environment is the most powerful growth medium, and we must weed the garden of our lives relentlessly. This strategy demands a critical self-assessment. Are the people I spend my time with helping me achieve my goals for health, wealth, and happiness, or are they undermining the disciplines I have so carefully cultivated? Once the environment is optimized for success, the final, overarching strategy demands that we elevate the entire pursuit from mere acquisition to meaningful existence, the culmination of the entire Rohnian philosophy. This comprehensive focus on internal mastery and external environment finally leads to the seventh and concluding strategy: learn the art of living well. This is where Rohn synthesizes all the previous steps into a holistic philosophy of life, declaring that true wealth and happiness is the balanced achievement of the major themes of life. The supreme lesson is that the final measure of success is not merely what you acquire, but who you become and what you give back. All the goal setting, knowledge, discipline, financial stewardship, and strategic associations are merely tools to facilitate a life of deep satisfaction and contribution. Rohn defined the art of living well through three interconnected pillars: health, physical and mental vitality; relationships, nurturing the small circle of those who matter most; contribution, leaving a legacy that goes beyond one's own immediate needs. The systematic link is that success in strategies 1 to 6 must fund success in strategy 7. For instance, the financial surplus gained from strategy 4, manage your finances, must be consciously directed to fund the health goal, joining a high-quality gym, investing in preventative care, and the contribution goal, philanthropy, impact investing. If a high-achieving American executive has accumulated significant wealth, strategy 4, but sacrificed their health and family relationships, strategy 7, Rohn would argue they have ultimately failed in the art of living well. Their goal was incomplete, their change was unbalanced, and their overall wealth is therefore compromised. On a global perspective, the emphasis on contribution is becoming increasingly paramount. The rise of social entrepreneurship and impact investing is a contemporary echo of Rohn's teaching. People are no longer content to simply make money. Their overarching goal is tied to a societal or environmental purpose. For example, a global foundation dedicated to eradicating a disease in Africa, funded by the disciplined savings and investments of a wealthy family, is the ultimate expression of living well, where financial success is systematically applied to the highest theme of life, making a tangible, positive difference. This final strategy mandates that the journey of wealth and happiness must lead to a meaningful life, transforming the practitioner from a self-focused individual to a person of profound value. The legacy we leave, the lives we touch, and the example we set becomes the ultimate return on the investment of all the time, discipline, and knowledge acquired along the way. If this message resonated with you, subscribe and join us for more wisdom that fuels growth.